Biohazard warning. Entering contaminated zone. Transmissions jammed. Proximity coverage only. Backup activated. System rebooted.
What's going on, agents? Sly here, and thanks for checking out another Division video. Another week has passed, and that means it's another week closer to some info on Update 1.6. Hopefully, State of the Games will start kicking off again soon, and we can start learning more about this Dark Zone patch coming to us here in the next few months. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, we still have a long way to go, and I'd like to start hearing some rough details about the final DLC, Last Stand. Now, what happens after those two have come and gone is anyone's guess, but with the immense launch the Division had, we can almost guarantee a sequel of some kind. Anyways, let's put the boots back down on present ground, and let's go see what new inventory lies in waiting for all the weapon-hungry agents out there. Here's hoping there might be a few new things that pique your interest. Alright guys, well let's get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday, January 13th, and this is your Division Weekly Weapon Restock Guide. Hope everyone's weekend is off to an awesome start, and for the Mass Effect fans out there, we just got a good taste of what the new ship, the Tempest, will look like from the inside. So if you're into Mass Effect, check out this video right here, and if not, then I discussed some things I wanted to see changed in this upcoming DZ patch, along with my personal thoughts about where it should lead us. Again, these are my thoughts and opinions from questions that I get in Twitter, in-game, chats, comments, etc. So check that out if you haven't seen it yet. Alright, enough talk. Let's start off by checking out the base of operations, and you probably know the drill by now. We'll start with the armory and then head downstairs, do a safe house tour, and then we'll finish up with the DZ. So, starting in the armory, let's take a look at all the rotating weapons for this week. As always, we're going to start off with a sidearm, and this week it's a military M9. Sidearms in the light zone run about 1.3 million, and this one is no exception. Decent damage to rate of fire with 15 in the mag. This one comes with expert and ferocious. Next up, a black market T821, and like other primary weapons, it'll set you back about 1.7 million. A very nice 37% critical hit damage with good damage in general, 550 rounds per minute with 32 in the mag. Talents are sustained, capable, and meticulous. Moving along, we come to a weapon that doesn't get a lot of love in this game, but don't be fooled, it is quite a beast, the tactical MK16. Mediocre armor damage, unfortunately, at 18%, but it does have pretty decent damage for its rate of fire, which is 625 rounds per minute, and it has 30 in the mag unmodded. Talents aren't great, but decent. We have swift, meticulous, and then fierce. Now, there are a few ways you could go with this weapon, but I would simply take out Meticulous and see if Destructive would be open, and boom! Use with Pulse, and you would be surprised how well this weapon will treat you. Definitely one of my top ARs in the slower rate of fire category. Alright, next we are going to roll over to a custom M870 MCS. 327.5% stagger, 75 rounds per minute with 5 in the mag. Talents are sustained, competent, and dominant. I'd hold off on any M870s for right now because there's something good a little later on. Next up, let's take a look at a classic M1A, an awesome 171% headshot damage. 300 rounds per minute with 10 in the mag unmodded. Prepared, competent, and ferocious are its talents, which is pretty damn good. Too bad it's a classic M1A, but a few tweaks and this one is good to go. And we finally come to the last weapon over here at the armory, and that is a black market RPK 74E. Absolutely terrible 11% damage out of cover, 650 rounds per minute, 45 in the mag. Talents are dominant, deadly, and capable. Okay, well, that wraps it up here at the armory. Now, the two best buys, in my opinion, are the MK16 and the M1A. But, like I said earlier, it's nothing to get excited about. Alright, well, let's head downstairs to the terminal and see what the special equipment vendor has for us this week. Then after that, we'll check out the blueprints guy. So, let's pop in and take a look. As usual, the rotating stock starts below the named weapons. And here first, we have a Rhino Special. Weapons at this vendor cost Phoenix credits, and this bad boy is about 1,000. 998 actually, but primaries run about 1250. So this Rhino, as you can see, hits pretty hard, but slow rate of fire with only 6 bullets. Talents are expert and unforgiving. Next up, let's take a look at this PP19, a pretty low 30% critical hit damage. It has 700 rounds per minute, 53 in the mag. Talents aren't too bad here, guys. Brutal, destructive, and hurried. Not a typical SMG setup, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be effective. Now, I would try to reroll Hurried for Fierce, but Accurate could also be a great talent to have on this specific weapon because, as we all know, PP19s are terrible in the accuracy department. Nonetheless, this gun is not too bad. So moving along here, another weapon that doesn't get into the light very often, the P416. Now this is the custom G3 version. 19% enemy armor damage, 750 rounds per minute with 30 in the mag. Talents, brutal, prepared, and talented. While not terrible, it's not great, but I'd shoot for destructive and then mod for mag size increase, accuracy, and stability, perhaps throw in a little faster fire speed. Do that, and you're going to have yourself a nice little weapon to work with. Moving along here, a surprising double-barreled sawed-off. 347% stagger, 200 rounds per minute, and of course, only 2 in the barrel. But look at these talents, guys. Destructive, responsive, and fierce. Not bad at all. That is one capable boomstick. Alright, next on the list, a sexy M700 Carbon. An awesome 172% headshot damage, 54 rounds per minute with 7 in the mag. Talents are talented, unforgiving, and elevated, which isn't great, but I would just reroll simply for brutal, boom, call it a day. Or look for another one, which is probably the best option. Alright guys, finally the last weapon on this list is a classic M60. 13% damage out of cover, decent damage with 500 rounds per minute, and an ass ton in the mag. It has talented, fierce, and capable as its talents, which isn't terrible to be honest. Problem is that fierce is locked with electronics, which as you'll soon see here in the rest of the video seems to be a theme for this week. As for armor, there are a few, okay pieces, but nothing really worth noting. So, moving on to the blueprints guy, we have an M870 Express blueprint. Shotguns are still pretty hard to beat for up-close DPS, and the right M870 can absolutely shred. So with the blueprint at your fingertips, you can try re-rolling until it's perfect. It'll set you back almost 1,000 Phoenix credits, but it is totally worth it in my opinion. The other weapon here is a classic RPK, nothing really special. Alright, well that brings the base of operation tour to a close. Next, we're going to take ourselves around the map on a tour of all the safe houses. Of course, we're only looking for weapons here, and we're going to start off at the crypt and work our way clockwise around the city. So the crypt is offering an M870 Express, 312% stagger with responsive, adept, and trained by the blueprint guys. Next up, we're jumping to the grindhouse and taking a look at a covert SRS. 147% headshot damage, and it comes with predatory, determined, and intense. Unfortunately, nothing really special about this one. Next, it's time for the last call and a classic M1A. A decent 163% headshot damage, comes with commanding, toxic, and proficient. If you really want an M1A, the last one we've seen at the base of operations had way more potential than this one. Next, over to the meat locker. What's over here, you ask? Well, good sir, a military MK46, I say. 12% damage out of cover with determined, deadly, and competent. Honestly, guys, the M60 we saw earlier wasn't too bad. So if you want an assload of bullets and a weapon, then this one is not the one. Alright, so next, I always forget about this guy, the base of operations vendor. Now, he has himself a Scar L, which is the assault rifle. 19% armor shred, good damage at 625 rounds per minute with 30 in the mag. Talents are predatory, skilled, and then destructive. This has the bones to be pretty good, guys. Not something that's going to carry you to godhood, but with a few tweaks, it'll treat you quite nicely until something better comes along. Okay, so now we are really done with the post office. Now let's head over to the camp. Camp Hudson. It must be our lucky day because we have ourselves another sawed-off double barrel here. Sub 300% stagger, comes with trained, commanding, and deadly. Moving on to Kermit's Station. Next up we have a tactical Vector, 45 ACP. I never really liked the tactical version of the Vector. It looks kind of derpy in my opinion. Anyways, comes with 31% critical hit damage, decent damage for a Vector, but only 20 in the mag. Responsive, determined, and ferocious are its talents. And by the way, what's with all these low critical hit percentages all of a sudden? Like last week, there were 38s all over the place, and now, there's none. Pfft, lame. Anyways, our last and final safe house stop is at the Wolf's Den, rocking a G36 Enhanced, which is still one of the better weapons in the game. 23% enemy armor damage, which I'm pretty sure is a max roll. I've never seen 24% before. Decent damage at 750 rounds per minute with 30 in the mag. Unfortunately, talents don't really do this weapon any justice, guys. Determined, predatory, and focus are its talents. However, it doesn't really make this a bad weapon though. Its damage alone is pretty decent, so adding one good talent and the right mods will still get you a good overall weapon. Now you could go the destructive route, accurate, brutal, responsive, fierce, those are all good choices. Alright ladies and gents, next up the DZ, which is the topic of much debate here recently, and like I said in my video from a couple days ago, I think most of the problems stem from just a few big ones. First up, there isn't enough stuff for people to do, and people hate 4-on-1. But since that was a design flaw from the start, we're going to have to get creative on how to solve it. Also, since it's PvPvE, people who come in for the loot hate getting shit stolen, myself included. So how they solve these problems, it'll be interesting to see. And like I said, if you want to hear my opinion on it, check out the video in the description box below. Alright, so these things are long enough as it is. Let's talk less and do more. Let's check out the main DZ vendor and then pray there's something halfway decent waiting for us inside. And spoiler alert, there isn't. There ain't shit there. Alright, so first on the list, guys, an Officer M9A1. It's a sidearm, so who cares? Next, a Police T821 with a decent 36% critical hit damage. Good overall damage at 550 rounds per minute with 32 in the mag. Talents, they're not that bad, guys. Brutal, unforgiving, and predatory. Useful talents, but nothing really in the DPS way except for brutal. Overall, not a bad weapon. Next up, we have ourselves another AK beast, the Black Market AK-74. An awesome 23% enemy armor damage, great overall damage with 600 rounds per minute, 30 in the mag unmodded. Talents aren't that bad as well, guys. Deadly, self-preserved, and predatory. This thing is a healing machine. I would definitely swap out self-preserved for brutal, destructive, accurate, fierce, any of those. But what I really miss is not having stable around anymore. What's up with that, right? Either way, this weapon is a bruiser. Not a bad buy here, guys. And moving along, we have ourselves a Super 90, 341.5% stagger. 150 rounds per minute with 8 in the mag. Talents are brutal, determined, and capable. Following that, a Military Scar H, which is the DMR Marksman's version. Mediocre headshot damage at 147%, but great overall damage for its rate of fire, and it comes with 20 in the mag. Talents are ferocious, deadly, and determined. This setup is pretty well for a long distance sharpshooter setup. Have like pulse and smart cover, just sit back. Of course it could be better, but this isn't bad at all. And finally we come to the last weapon here at the DZ vendor, a classic RPK-74. 13% damage out of cover, 650 rounds per minute with 45 in the mag. Talents are self-preserved, fierce, and deadly. Pretty good, but fierce is once again electronics locked, so for most builds it's going to be a no-go. Still, not a bad weapon, but not worth buying in my opinion. Alright agents, well that wraps up the DZ vendor. Our final act in the weapon reset guide is to check out all of the checkpoints. Now most of the time, there really isn't anything worth looking into, and due to time, I'm only going to go over the ones that are the absolute best. So let's do just that. Starting off at the West 46th Street checkpoint, there is an MG5. 12% damage out of cover with commanding, brutal, and competent. Nothing amazing, but the choices are pretty slim this week. Next, moving down to the West 34th Street checkpoint, there is a tactical ACR that isn't all that bad at all. 19% armor shred, good damage for its rate of fire with 30 in the mag. Talents are where this thing falls apart though. Self-preserved, swift, and intense. Now the bones are there for something decent and it'll hit hard no matter the talent. Okay, so next up we're checking out the West 31st Street vendor, and this is by far the best weapon at any of the checkpoints this week. A classic AK-47. 19% armor shred with decent damage at 600 rounds per minute. 30 in the mag unmodded. Talents are responsive, destructive, and vicious. Pretty good, guys. And then the final two weapons on East 34th Street, there's another decent MG5. This one is the infantry version. 13% damage out of cover, comes with accurate, determined, and vicious. And then our last decent weapon is at the East 53rd Street checkpoint with a tactical UMP-45. 34% critical hit damage, but its damage roll is really the only reason why it's any good. It has pretty high damage for that rate of fire, especially for an SMG. Talents, like I said, not that great. Hurried, Predator, and Ambusher. predatory. And that, my friends, is it. As always, thank you guys so much for watching and for the constant support of the channel. Now, I'm working on a few things that I hope pan out here very soon, so I can start showing my support for all of you guys out there in the way of some giveaways. So let's hope everything goes through smoothly, and keep checking back, as I'll let everyone know the instant the news comes through. But in the meantime, keep being awesome, agents, and keep checking back with me here at Sly Nation for everything The Division, Destiny, and Mass Effect Andromeda. I'll have more videos coming out here soon, but until then, this is your boy Sly. Later, guys.
Okay, Agent, I'm impressed.